Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Indies on Nintendo, Pokemon, Color Splash, and Animal Crossing. Plus, we go deep on The Legend of Zelda, The Twilight Princess. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host, Mark Mitchell.
Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Wow, caught me off guard. I was going to ask Mark, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah?
I'm feeling confused about the weather.
Oh, yeah.
It was like rainy and cold today, which is great.
Mhm.
I'm all for that.
It was like raining light.
Yes.
It's the kind of raining you would only call raining in Los
Angeles.
Yeah, anywhere else you would be laughed out of the bagel shop. They would tell you to get out.
Mm-hmm. Not here.
Not here.
But the thing that's annoys me about it is that by Thursday,
Yeah, it's supposed to be back in the 90s.
it's gonna be like 100 degrees. I find this really irritating.
I thought for sure when I moved to LA,
Mm-hmm.
the land of perpetual summer,
Mm-hmm.
that we would be done talking about the weather. But it's just not the case. It happens, man.
Like, what are you gonna do?
I don't know.
Here's something that's not weather related that
Do go on.
is so I've been working in an office for the last few months.
Uh-huh.
It's been great. And okay, so
No complaints about the office
no
structure.
complaints.
Okay,
Not at
good.
all. In the bathroom on the second floor, there's a automatic paper towel dispenser,
Yeah.
and it makes a sound. And for the past month, I've been like, why does this sound so familiar? Every time a paper towel is dispensed, I'm like, that sounds. And I finally figured out what it is.
Can I make some guesses
Yeah,
before
please.
you do? Is it the sound that the smoke monster makes on Lost?
No,
Okay. Is it the sound of Yoshi swallowing something?
no, but you're getting closer.
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
Is it the sound of when Mario spin jumps on something you can't kill?
Colder.
Oh, colder. I don't know. Just tell me.
Okay. At the end of a level in Super Mario World,
Uh-huh.
and there's the sound where it's like, "Bow."
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
What?
I've wanted to record it, but there's no good way to record something in a bathroom because either people are in the bathroom with you,
Right.
or you're recording and somebody walks in on you recording something in the bathroom. There's just no good way to
Okay.
do it.
You've got an assignment now.
Figure
you
out
have
a
to
way to.
Go in late.
Uh-huh.
Like after this, we'll go into your office.
Right.
And we'll record the sound and then we'll play it back to back with the.
I mean, it genuinely makes me happy every
okay.
time because there are better bathrooms in this building, but I like going to this one because the sound brings me joy.
Right. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. Like you've just finished the bathroom level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But no, I don't know. What's new with you?
Oh, geez, new with me. Well, actually, let's use that actually to segue into what we've been playing.
Sure.
Because I spent the weekend with Severed.
Right.
Severed is the new-ish game by the studio Drinkbox, who are the guys behind Guacamelee, which was one of my favorite games. Did you ever play Guacamelee?
No.
So Guacamelee has that Metroidvania exploration style to it, but it's also really intensely focused on the combat. The fighting and brawling in that game is about as good as side-scroll beat-em-up combat can be. Combat's just all very tight, and the platforming is similarly tight.
But Severed is completely different from that, right?
Severed is it is cosmetically similar.
Mm-hmm.
In that it uses a very high contrast graphic art style. That Guacamelee was about a Mexican luchador in a fantastical world, and this has a lot of the same visual flourishes, but without being Mexican. Really, it just has a lot of the same shapes and bright colors. But the gameplay itself, it's a first person. It's from a first person perspective, and you play a young girl whose family has been killed, and she's transported to a strange fantasy world. and you're walking around in first person, but it's not it's not like free roaming in first person. You're like advancing screen by screen kind of. So that like you're in a room, and while you're in a room, all you can do is kind of like rotate around or like go forward or go back. And the crux of the game is like there are exploration elements, but the whole game is based on a totally touch-based combat system. So enemies need to be attacked by swiping on the screen. That's like your sword, and they have to be like in certain directions, and they'll change up like how they're blocking, and you kind of switch between one or two or three or four enemies that you're fighting at one time, and you building up combos and getting your focus up, and you need to get your focus up so that when you kill them, you can slice off limbs and like harvest them to level up your abilities. It's super cool. Kind of a brief game. I think I beat it in like 5-ish hours. But I kept wandering around the world for the next like hour afterwards because I wasn't ready to let it go yet. So yeah, I'm super happy with this game. It came out last week
for the Wii U and the 3DS, but it was on other platforms before, right?
Yeah, so it was on. It debuted on the Vita of all places. And then I think it's available on iOS as well. But so one of I played it on Wii U, and one of the things that I loved about it is you could put the whole screen up on the TV. Like otherwise it's just touch based, right? So like you need to be able to see what you're swiping at and like where you're starting and where you're ending and all of that. But the art is so gorgeous that like putting it up on the TV is a huge treat. Like you get to see all these awesome weird monsters on a big bright screen, which just doesn't really compare to having it on your phone or on your Vita or on the top screen of the 3DS.
Yeah, because it's cross-buy, right?
Yes.
So did you like check it out on the 3DS at all to see what it?
I mean, I checked it out in that I just made sure to redeem my 3DS copy. Yeah. And I think that I will the next time I'm on a plane, I'll pull it out and I'll play it on the 3DS and just play through it again because I liked it. But it's a stressful game. Like the combat is like was like vexing me. It had me like physically exhausted. Like I got kind of a headache playing it because like I was concentrating so much.
Oh.
So yeah, that was my experience with Severed. I recommend. It's $15. Gets you both copies. Or either copy if you only have one of them. But yeah, if you want to spend fewer dollars than that, it is available on iOS. And I think it's like 7 or something there.
So Patrick Eller seal of approval?
Yeah, it gets my seal of approval.
Right, put it in the book.
In the book. Let's get out, Mark.
Let's get out the book.
All right. Well, book is
okay. Have to blow off the dust. We don't use it that often.
All right, go ahead. Okay, now I'm going to get the forceps here, and I'm going to sterilize them in the candle fire that we've got here. Open page here.
Very good.
Seal of approval. And then we'll close it and put it away. But yeah, I really enjoyed Severed, so would recommend. Mark, what have I've been jabbering for a while, and I apologize, but what have you been playing?
I actually just bought Animal Crossing New Leaf.
Welcome to your town.
Thank you. Even though it came out a few weeks ago.
Well,
years ago.
Yeah, it came out a few years ago. And
the game came out a few years ago.
And then a few weeks ago came down in price.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was a big fan of Wild World, the DS incarnation.
Thank you.
That was actually the first Animal Crossing I played.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was great. I spent, an unbelievable amount of time in it. And I also had City Folk, the Wii version.
Yeah. Was that the one that had like the microphone component? Okay.
I never had an opportunity to use it. I didn't play City Folk for that long. For some reason, I don't know, like it was basically Wild World with, like a small city element.
Yeah.
But I just didn't take to it.
I think with Animal Crossing games or games like that, like if they hit you right, like at the right time, then they can be magical. But if they don't, it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and I also think that even though it started life on the console,
Yeah.
Animal Crossing just makes sense on mobile. You know, like makes
Yeah.
sense like on a mobile device, like
And,
or
and when it will be on a mobile phone,
yeah,
that's
no,
when it makes the most sense, right?
yes, like this is one of the Animal Crossing is one of the few franchises that it really does make sense that you could do a full-fledged Animal Crossing on mobile and not lose anything.
Yeah, not because there's no like action functionality to
Right.
it.
It's
Yeah.
not like the controls have to be super precise. Um, and it's just crying out for microtransactions.
Oh heavens, is it ever?
But I'm really enjoying New Leaf. The thing about New Leaf is because I liked Wild World so much. You know how with a lot of these remakes, like most recently with Dragon Quest VII, the developers were talking about like when you're remaking these games, you don't remake it like faithfully. You want to remake it in a if they're doing their job right, they're doing it in a way so it's like, oh, it's the game you remember,
Sure.
not the game that it actually was.
They're remaking the spirit of it.
Yeah, so like, you know, the combat might be refined and things like that, but that's because uh if you actually go back and play it, it might be like tedious,
right.
but so they want to leave the tedium behind.
Are you finding that they have left the tedium behind in
In
New Leaf?
in a lot of respects, I mean, a lot of respects, New Leaf to me just feels like the perfect Animal Crossing game.
Yeah, okay.
Or like the best Animal Crossing game to come so far. Like it feels very familiar,
Mhm.
but the things they have added, like you being the mayor and like having new uh like responsibilities.
Yeah, having to like bring up your poll numbers.
Yeah, like all of that is just like adds more content. Which I'm actually surprised because I remember, even though I played a lot of Wild World, I remember there not being a ton to do. You know, it's like every day you
Yeah.
just like check in, you'd water your flowers, you'd do like, you know, like a few things, but it didn't take very long. I'm finding in New Leaf, I've been trying to like log in every day and send everybody in my town letters and like go say hi to everybody. And
Let me
there's
ask
like
you
a
this.
lot to do.
I gotta know, when
Mhm.
you write letters to the people in your town, what do you say to them?
I
Do you actually write things to them? Because when I was playing, I picked it up
Yeah.
when the price dropped a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and I would write them letters like, "I like your shirt."
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. For some reason, I feel I never write anything crude.
No,
Like
me
I
neither.
don't like I always like, and even though they're short because I don't want to type out like
Right.
a lot
It
of
takes a
stuff.
while.
It takes a while. But yeah, I always write something, even if it's just like hope you're enjoying, you know, like whatever it is. And okay, and so this is where I'll say there are some like aspects of like New Leaf that are still not ideal. Like there's room for improvement.
Mhm.
Um and it's really just like little things that take time that add up
Yeah.
the more you do them. Just like when you enter a building, you know, you have to there's like a pause because you like put your item away.
Yeah.
Or when you first go into the recycling place or like the flea market, the
Yeah.
woman, they're like they always say hello and you can't move or do anything, and then you can move, and then when you're leaving they always say goodbye, and it's like all this stuff is the loading between the village and like the city portion, like all that stuff. There's just like little things that it
Yeah.
makes it
Want it
just
to be
feel like a
quicker.
little bit too long. So it's definitely not like I would love to get to a point where it just like it's just like open world or whatever that means. You know, where you're just like there's no transitions
Yeah.
between the different aspects.
Yeah, actually that's it's kind of curious that like they do make a point of making you hear a hello and goodbye from everyone when you like enter or leave
Yeah.
their store, because like they have voices.
Right.
So like if you just walked in and you heard like a like you would know
Right,
it's greeting me. You
Yeah.
don't need to see the word hello.
Well, and even if you should like do that, let me move while it's happening.
Yeah.
Like don't like stop me.
Right.
But yeah, I mean overall I'm having a lot of fun. I'm already dreading
When you stop
when I
playing.
stop playing because, and I actually think, I wonder if this is a problem with people that play Animal Crossing is I wonder if people who leave it for a certain amount of time
Yes.
are just like, I'm never, you know, like if they're like, oh, it's been like a month. Whereas if it was like a Zelda game or something, we'd be like, oh, I'll just pick it up and play it. With Animal Crossing, we're like, I can't go back.
That's what happened to my Nintendog.
Yeah.
I loved my Nintendog. And then for whatever reason, I stopped playing for like 2 months. And then I saw the cartridge again later and was like, oh,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna go back and she's gonna have made a mess and like she's not gonna want to catch the frisbee with me and like I can't go back.
Yeah, it's the if you are into this sort of thing, like if you give into the world, it is like, "Ugh, I can't. I like I don't want to be mean to anybody. I'm trying to do like all of the like things that they want me to do to give
Yeah.
like the highest
Approval.
approval,
Rating.
and I don't want people to move away from my town because they're unhappy or anything like that.
What one of the reasons that this game has gone down in price, and both you and I have purchased it recently, is that it is about to get, or I don't know, about to.
Yeah,
at
I
some
think in
point.
November.
Oh, it has been dated.
Maybe.
We're guessing now.
Yeah. We're not experts, we're fans.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, is it marked? Is this something we need to? Do we need to explain this? Do we?
I mean, we can be loud and proud about it.
All right. Yeah, so we're obviously not. I said obviously, like we are obviously not experts.
Yeah, I mean, we only made a podcast about it.
Yeah. That's it. That's the only difference between you and I
Mm-hmm.
and two other people.
Mm-hmm.
That you and I have these bodies.
Right.
First of all,
Uh-huh.
ripped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Second-
we are jacked.
right.
Like, it's disgusting.
But that the only thing that is different is that we have made this podcast
Mhm.
and we're huge Nintendo fans.
Yeah, we're just like two friends just chatting Nintendo.
Just chatting Nintendo. In the running for the title of the podcast, Chatting Nintendo.
Yes.
No, there was a point I was actually driving at is that this thing is getting amiibo support
Mm-hmm.
patched into it.
Yes.
Like 3 years after it came out in the first place.
Yeah, and they're releasing, I mean, like, the game, in even, like, physical versions, is getting rebranded to be Animal Crossing Welcome Amiibo.
So are they dropping the new Leaf branding?
That's what it looks like on, like, the box art that they released.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mark, do you feel bad that your 3DS won't be able to read amiibo?
Since I have never purchased an Amiibo, and
I'm going to get you some amiibo cards.
at this point, I know, and Amiibo cards are, like, the one... No, I don't feel bad.
Yeah, you do. You hesitated a little bit.
I don't
you sort
feel
of feel bad.
Well, I mean, do I want the best? Of course I do.
And Mark, you deserve the best.
But at this point in the life cycle, it just, I don't know. Even though I find the 3DS frustrating to use because it's so slow to do everything,
Mm-hmm.
I can't justify upgrading at this point.
I hear that. But expect us to revisit Animal Crossing in the future as we visit each other's towns.
Yeah.
And as amiibo support gets patched in.
Oh yeah, that was something I was actually. It makes sense now that I understand how it works. But I assumed that if I opened my gate in Animal Crossing,
Mhm.
that meant like, oh, I could turn off my game and you'd be able to come visit.
Yeah, I think it needs to be on the whole time.
Yeah, I
right?
have to be like using, or yeah, it has to be on. Like as soon as you turn
Right.
off the 3DS, it closes the gate.
So we're gonna have to make like active dates to visit each other's towns.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll make this work. We're coming at this game like 4 years too late, but like we're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
So I've also been playing Paper Mario Color Splash,
Mm-hmm.
which is adorable. I haven't gotten super far in it yet. And the combat is all super simplistic. And you have to, when you fight things. So okay, the game, the game is another in the Paper Mario series.
Mm-hmm.
So it has role playing elements, but those are all kind of set aside, or not set aside, but minimized for sort of a like mini game ish based combat. It's not as bad as like Yokai Watch, but like the fights do feel similarly fussy,
Mm-hmm.
where like you just got to do a few little things and like you have control over what's happening, but not in like a meaningful strategic sort of way. You just make sure you have enough combat cards. You go in and push the button when it says to push the button. But the writing in the game is fantastic. It is so funny and so charming.
And that's one of the big hallmarks of
Yeah.
the Paper Mario series.
Yeah, of all of the Mario RPG series. There is, like I said, I'm still like pretty early in the game. But maybe somewhere in like the 4th or 5th level, you pick up someone who is a bridge repairman. and you bring him back to the town where he repairs the bridge. And this is good news for the toad that's sitting right by the bridge, who is a bridge enthusiast. Okay, so the bridge maker and the bridge enthusiast continue to stand at either side of this bridge forever, and they're so excited about the bridge that when Mario crosses it, they dance around because they're so happy. And if you jump on the bridge, they start jumping up and down too. It's adorable. The game is just so full of these like just cute little details. And I'm looking forward to playing more of it.
Yeah, everything I've been like following people on Twitter who are playing it,
Yeah.
and just like all the little hidden things that I remember loving so much
Mhm.
about the Paper Mario series. Yeah, it's just great to have another one.
So also the like kind of principal bad guys are Shy Guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when this happened, but Shy Guys, when did they become adorable? When did they become like the cutest thing ever? I love them so much, and I don't know when it happened.
I don't.
You don't have to have an answer for that.
No, no. I was gonna say that Shy Guy Amiibo. That has to happen at some point, right?
Oh yeah, it does. Oh man, I'll buy it.
I know you will. I know you will.
Mark, regardless of what I'm gonna buy, I think it's time for us to move on to the news.
So Tim Cook was in Japan recently. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple,
There we go.
was in Japan recently. Doing business things.
Right. There's a lot of business to be had in Japan.
And he visited Nintendo headquarters, and there were like some press photos of him playing Super Mario Run,
which is exciting.
Yeah, and one of the things he told BuzzFeed Japan
Mm-hmm.
is that Super Mario Run already has 20 million iOS users that have clicked like this like notify button in the App Store. So as soon as Super Mario Run becomes available in December, it'll like send out a push notification to 20 million iOS users and is like, hey, this game's available for download/purchase.
I am one of those 20
Yeah,
million.
me as well.
Okay.
Well, and
yes.
it's the first time that Apple's done like that something like a notification like this is available for
Oh,
something.
really?
Yeah, this is the first time they're doing it. And so as soon as the conference was over, the conference where Super Mario Run was announced in September, as soon as it was over, when you went to the App Store, it had like a splash page for Super Mario Run, and when you clicked on it, there was a little bit of information, some screenshots, little video, and then there's like the notify button that you click.
Yeah.
20 million.
I mean, I did it that day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as soon as I was like, I have to go check this thing out, just in case there's like a date there that no one is reporting on
Right.
for some reason.
Well, just consider that. So the way that Super Mario Run is going to work is it'll be free to start, and then you will pay like a one fee to unlock
to like get the
everything.
whole game. Okay.
Yeah, and who knows what that fee is going to be? I would guess somewhere between $5 and $10. That's based on no information,
Right.
You know.
Can I ask what would be like where does it become a question for you? Because right now, for me, at $5 or $10, it is a no-brainer impulse purchase the second I see.
Yeah, I think anything more than, I mean, let's be real. I'm gonna buy it no matter what.
Yeah.
But I think anything over 10.
I think 15 for me. I still do without
15.
thinking
I
about
could
it.
see them doing like $14.99, but there'd have to be a lot of content, and that's just like for better, and developers would say for worse, like the economics of the App Store.
Yeah.
Like
are crummy.
everything's
Yeah.
like a buck to
Mhm.
like $5, $8, but like $15 is a hard. I feel like
There's something I really I like and respect about that though, like insisting on the value of a game.
Mhm.
That like obviously resources go into it and obviously it's valuable. You just don't see a lot of people doing that. Like Square does it with their games, even if a lot of the iOS games they do are like not great ports of things, or have their own microtransaction problems. Like Final Fantasy All the Bravest.
Mhm.
Did you play this game?
I downloaded it.
Yeah, and then you're
And-
like, oh, I can't do anything without spending money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, if I like that Nintendo is in a space where they can like set their own rules about it. But on the flip side, I would also love to only pay $5 for this game. That would be great.
But even at $5, let's say they go like real lowball and it's like $4.99.
Yeah.
Let's say if 20 million people at launch
Yeah.
have like, and that's just
It's $100
the people that like,
yeah.
that's just the people who chose to be notified.
Yeah.
And not the people that will find it, after the fact. Like they're gonna make
Because they're gonna push
so
this thing.
much money.
Yeah. It's an exciting time.
I mean, it just means that like Nintendo's mobile strategy, you're just like, oh, this makes like you're gonna make so much money from this, and then any like spillover into your console space is just
Yeah.
like I don't know. I like it really is. People are like, I don't think Nintendo should ever go full mobile, but like the synergy between the two, it seems like the potential is endless.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have a news item about this, but did you see that Sony is also talking about getting into the mobile games market?
Yeah, I did see that.
As led by the example of Nintendo's example. Guess what, Sony? You don't have IP like Mario.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's what it comes down to. It's like, what are you going to do? Like, Temple Run, like Nathan Drake version?
It seems crazy. I mean, Crash Bandicoot? Does that track? Does that register?
I mean, no, I don't think so. I honestly, you have like a small group of gamers who are nostalgic for Crash Bandicoot, but
yeah,
nobody now,
Yeah, it seems like it's not necessarily.
Also, most of those games, especially any of the more recent ones, have been awful.
Sure.
So why is anyone gonna be like, oh, a new Crash Bandicoot game on iOS? To me, just is like screams shovelware.
Okay, I picked a game. I thought maybe Crash Bandicoot.
I'm not attacking you. I'm attacking the idea of Crash Bandicoot.
Okay, I'm sorry.
As a desirable IP that people would be driven to buy. But yeah, I did see that and I laughed because I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but it just sounds like when they Sony made their own Smash Brothers like beat 'em up.
Yes.
So what was it, like PlayStation All-Stars or something?
PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
Yeah,
which I did own.
I remember that. I remember playing it on your Vita.
Yeah, it's not great.
Nope. So anyways, Sony's mobile strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. So
shots fired.
Well, if somebody's upset about that, Patrick, where can they send their comments?
If you're upset about anything that Mark has said, remember it is my fault.
Right.
For anything Mark has said, and you can send all complaints to Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com. So the Bravely Default series,
yes,
its 4th anniversary was this week, and its Japanese Twitter sent out like an image being like, and the text of it read, hey, you haven't heard from us for a while, but maybe you'll hear something soon.
The text started, hey.
I'm localizing it.
Oh, okay. This is not a direct translation.
No, this is not a direct translation.
Very good.
Yeah.
So something soon.
Yeah, which is, who knows what this means? It may mean they're working on a a third game.
Mm-hmm.
It may mean that they're just tweeting something out to the fans, being like, hey, we recognize this. There's nothing in the works right now, but maybe eventually we'll do another Bravely Default game.
Do you think it's possible that there's like a port of Bravely Second heading to the NX? Or maybe a Bravely collection? I don't know what you call this series.
Well, so the second game, my understanding is that the second game did very poorly in Japan.
Oh.
And I know the first game did well, like in the West, or what, like surprisingly well. I think expectations were low.
Yeah.
And I haven't really, you don't hear much about the second
Bravely
game.
Second. Yeah.
So I'm guessing it did maybe not as well. So I really don't know. Like, and I know the team that developed the Bravely Default games is working on something else right now. So they're not working on a third game.
So let me ask you this, Mark. Do you think this Twitter tease is a bigger deal than Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption Twitter tease from yesterday? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. No, I would definitely say this is a much smaller deal. I don't know, like one of the biggest one of the most successful developers in the world, and then the Bravely Default team.
Yeah, I mean, they're both. Everyone's doing their best.
Everyone's doing their best work. But actually, the one of the reasons I thought this was interesting, although we are coming perilously close into dabbling in NX rumors, which we do not do.
No, we have
strict
declared,
moratorium.
Look, this is We Are the Scarlet Witch,
Uh-huh.
right? And we have declared no more mutants.
No.
Slash NX rumors.
Yes,
Yes.
strongly. You can see Patrick and I
Oh
gesticulating.
yeah, we are gesticulating wildly. There's like it's like we're making check marks in the air.
Yes.
Dude, were we saying check at any point?
No.
Okay. Check.
But one of the rumors associated with NX.
Okay,
so
fine.
no. We're NX tangential here. We're
Okay.
not like actually in NX rumors. Is that Nintendo? This is pure rumor. Intends to continue supporting the 3DS until 2018.
Sure. We're still talking about the 3DS.
Yes.
Right.
And whether this means
That's 2 more years.
whether this means that they're developing for it, or my opinion is that if this is even true, this rumor is true, but my opinion is that it just means that they will continue to like support and like license and
keep the servers up and stuff.
yeah.
too.
Or what's
Like, how much longer are we gonna be able to play Rusty's Real Deal Baseball on our 3DSs?
I'm guessing maybe till 2018.
Okay. That's my hope.
Yeah. And so if there is plans for a Bravely Third, 2 years away, it could still come out on the 3DS.
Mhm.
And not on any console that we won't name because we're not talking about it until
Until we
there's
have
actual
real
news.
concrete evidence.
Mhm.
Also, rumor says that maybe there'll be a direct about it this week, but who knows?
I
We're
don't
not talking
believe
about
it.
that.
I don't believe it.
Okay.
I don't believe it. Oh yeah. Okay. So the Zelda game. It's Zelda-like.
Right. This is a
called-
term that we use. We use. I just sounded like a real jerk. Like construction that people are using in the video game industry, where something is something like.
Mhm.
So like a rogue like is like a game that's like rogue.
Yeah. Like what? Like
What is that? What is the game that's like? I'm sorry to have interrupted your headline, Mark.
No, well, so there's a indie game called Oceanhorn, and it's been available on like everything for a really long time, most everything for a really long time,
Right.
because
Like a month or so.
no, I
right?
think like the first Oceanhorn, because there's a second one coming out.
Oh, okay.
I think the first one's been available on like iOS for years,
Oh, okay.
and it's, let's just be honest, it's basically an indie version of like old school Zelda slash
Yeah,
with
it's got
Wind
like
Waker.
it's got like so it's got like the Wind
Isometric.
Waker aesthetic, yeah, and an
Yeah.
isometric perspective,
Yeah,
but otherwise just basically looks like Zelda.
yeah. I mean, it's
Um,
basically a link to the past with Wind Waker aesthetics.
Hey man,
No, and that's not a bad
sounds
thing.
great.
Exactly. It's like it's scratching an itch that a lot of people have
why are we talking about Ocean?
because it's coming to a quote Nintendo console.
Right.
And whether that means the console that we're not talking about,
Right. Or could be
like the
U.
Wii U, but they would probably just say Wii U
Right.
or 3DS. So yeah, I'm guessing yet another game has been announced for NX. We don't even know what NX is yet. Nintendo, please put us out of our misery.
Mark, we are talking too much about the NX.
You're right. So should we just move on?
Let's move on.
Okay, so Bandai Namco has announced that they will be adding a new fighter to the arcade version of Pokken Tournament. I'm assuming that's how you say it? Pokken?
I've heard both Pokken and Pokken.
Pokken.
So I mean, who cares?
Pokemon. I say Pokken,
But
makes the most
but it's
sense.
like Tekken.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Scizor? Probably Sizor will be joining the fighting game roster on October 20th, and I'm guessing this is just like the arcade version that did it come out of Japan? Is there
Yeah, I don't know.
in
I don't know
arcades
if
the
there
US?
are American arcade cabinets of it or not.
Because I mean, surprise, surprise, the game did not sell well on the Wii U.
I mean, yeah, even the things that sell well on the Wii U don't really sell well.
Yeah, but I mean, even on the scale,
Right.
like even on the grading on the curve that is, Wii U sales, I think Pokken Tournament did not do well, which is weird because I can understand like why it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you actually get to like fight
Make 'em fight,
Pokemon against
yeah.
each other. Like that's cool, and they like have their moves and everything. Uh, I would never buy it.
You know what I am turned off by is that just knowing that it's based in like Tekken mechanics.
Mm.
Because those Tekken games, man, they're dense.
Well, see, I don't really like. I'm not a huge fighting game person in general.
Sure, I likes me some fighting games.
Yeah, I don't have like the patience to learn,
Mhm.
you know, all the mechanics. And so this to me is like, oh, I would watch this being played at an arcade, right? I would like watch it with interest.
Right.
If somebody was like playing it, I'd be like, oh, this is really cool. And maybe I would drop like a few quarters to try it out.
Right,
But
just to get your butt kicked a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But I would never purchase it.
Yeah. I mean, if this is one of those games that if they were like, forget it, it's now part of Nintendo Selects and it's $20, I would just seriously consider like getting it, having a fun weekend with it,
Mm-hmm.
and then never thinking about it again.
I can't imagine that they'll ever put Sizor, like release him as DLC for the Wii U version, just because it doesn't seem like it's worth it to them to support the Wii U version anymore. You know what I mean?
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
But in other Pokemon news,
Hey, other Pokemon news.
another Pokemon Sun and Moon trailer dropped this last week, and so there were 8 new Pokemon revealed, most of which were like evolutions and of new Pokemon that we've met previously, like Alola versions. Alola.
Yeah, you got to watch out. It's not Aloha.
Yeah.
It's Alola.
Mm-hmm.
Alola being the new continent.
Yeah.
The new
The
archipelago.
new like region or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, region. You got it. You got the lingo.
So yeah, Alola versions of Muck and Grimer.
Yeah, they're like rainbowy and like glimmery.
I've got to say, I'm pretty excited for this new region. I think it's
It seems cool and fun.
Yeah. And very different from like the aesthetics that we've seen previously in Pokemon.
Yeah, it's interesting because like it's obviously borrowing from Hawaiian imagery, and there's so much like of that like of Japan in Hawaii.
Mhm.
Like there obviously like wildly different cultures. I'm making shapes with my hands that aren't coming across on the microphone, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm excited to see like to see what like the Japanese Pokemon take on Hawaii is.
Yeah.
That's very fun to me.
Well, there's also Nintendo of America was just holding some events so press could play the first few hours of Sun and Moon, and some interesting things came out of. There's like no more gyms, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's no 2D, there's no 3D at all in this.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Do you think that is because also have they announced any 3DS or 2DS bundles with this thing yet?
I'm not sure.
We're getting late in the game to not have that information.
Yeah.
I wonder if they do if they push a 3DS bundle or a 2DS bundle. Because I mean, not having 3D, it seems like a pretty solid play for like, no, it's okay, just go ahead and get that $80 machine 2DS and play the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was the intention behind it. I think it really just came down to performance issues.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I don't think Game Freak could get their engine to run super great in 3D. But yeah, I mean, I do think the 2DS at $80, you know, it's a Pokemon machine.
Right.
For Christmas, you get that in like the $40.
Yeah, we've been hawking that thing a lot. So like, make sure to pick up your 2DS today.
It's a really good system. I think right now it's because the 3DS has a great library of games, and for 80, you know, like getting in with $80 with I think the best form factor of a 3DS.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The only places I would push back on that are that it doesn't have amiibo functionality.
Mm-hmm.
It can't play the Super Nintendo games.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have the right nub.
Yeah.
And it is slow like a regular 3DS.
Oh my gosh, the regular 3DS is so slow.
It's so slow. Oh my god. If they released a new 2DS, I would buy one of those tomorrow.
I would be tempted actually if it was at, you know, like a discounted price. If
Yeah, or
for
like a
$125
reasonable
or something.
That's I was also thinking $19.99.
I would be tempted. I don't think I'd buy one because
It's
I already have a
still
3DS.
$100,
But yeah, but I would definitely be like, that's a compelling. It's worth the like extra $30
Yeah.
To have it not go so slow.
And to play Super Nintendo games on.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's
That's a
get
big
into some
selling
new
point.
releases, Mark.
Well, Pokemon Sun and Moon demo for the 3DS comes out today.
Today,
And so-
October 18th.
Yeah, so Patrick and I will be downloading it and playing it and talking about it next week.
Yeah, and if you are doing the same and you have questions or if you experience something cool or frustrating or whatever, be sure to email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. Also coming out this week on the 20th is SteamWorld Heist coming out on the Wii U for $14.99. You ever play any of the SteamWorld games?
No, but I listened to another podcast, US Gamers Axe of the Blood God, which is their RPG podcast, and they speak very highly of it. So I'm actually really interested in checking out the SteamWorld games.
Yeah, we should look into Heist when it comes out. It comes out the 20th, which is Thursday of this week.
And then also coming out is Faerun 2. And this is a game that I just saw like on Twitter. The original Faerun came out in 2014, and it's another like action RPG type game. But it was only $3 when it came out. I think it was super short, but it was popular enough to have a sequel. And looks like they've like expanded on it a little bit. The thing that I think is most interesting about it is how difficult it is to find out when anything is coming out on a Nintendo system.
I mean, it's really hard. I was paying attention to Severed, right? I was like, man, this game has got to, it says fall, like they got to put a date on this soon. And then like it didn't actually click for me, or I didn't see the date until like 10 o'clock the night before it was released, after we had recorded an episode saying, and that's all that's coming out next week. Nothing we're interested in. Certainly not the new Drinkbox game that Patrick really wants to play.
Yeah, it's impossible. You and I both have like searched to find just like a comprehensive list of things that are coming out. And I don't know if it's because the approval process for the Nintendo eShop, or the way they like decide when they're going to. It seems like all these are just like surprises where it's like, oh, it's coming out right now.
Do you think that like maybe the approval process, like you say, is like arduous, or maybe that the approval process is like nothing at this point, and so it just like the second the port is ready, they can kick it out?
I have no idea what's going on, because like, yeah, you and I both every week we look for like lists of release dates.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the ones that I find, it didn't have Severed, it didn't have favorite, like it didn't have any of these things listed.
Yeah.
And then I'm on like Twitter and I see somebody like, tweet. That's how I knew that Severed was coming out.
Yeah.
Because I think the developer tweeted it.
So this is insane. Like with any amount of like pushing, I don't know, I feel like Nintendo should be better about like getting in front of these things and saying like, hey, there are constantly good games coming to this platform.
Even the Nintendo website is in like,
real crummy.
Oh, it's so hard to find any information about when there's no like chronological list where it's like, okay, it's like week by week, here's what's coming. It's bonkers.
You know what the worst part about using the Nintendo website is that probably 60% of the time that I'm on there, I get like that little pop-up window that's like, would you like to take a survey about your experience with this website?
Do you ever do those?
Yeah, I do them.
Yeah, I do them too.
I do them a lot.
Yeah. I have opinions.
Yeah.
So anyways, if you like, I'm genuinely asking if somebody out there, like, if there's a place you go to find out what's being released, please let us know.
Also, if you know of a cool indie game coming out next week and you want to let us know about it, you can shoot us an email at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and just let us know, and we'll love to chat about it.
Yeah, we want to play things you're excited to
play.
Play.
Yeah. I thought for sure we were gonna say in unison things that you're excited about, but we're excited to play games that you're excited to play. That's rhetorically better. Mark, let's move out of the news. All right, now it's time for a regular segment on Nintendo Cartridge Society. This is 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. For the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not Nintendo related, and the music will be the sound of the room as we are not playing our instruments.
The instruments being talking about Nintendo.
That's right. And Mark, let 433 begin. So, did you have something video gamey that you want to talk about? I know we talked about it a little bit already, but I want to talk about Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
And the way that Rockstar has announced this thing so far. To date, they've done just 2 tweets about it. Is that right?
I think so.
I'm gonna pull them up on my phone. The first one is just their Rockstar logo in black on a red background. That's it. And then the second one has some people riding horses off in the background. How cool is this? And is there anyone else in the world that could do this? Here's what the first tweet looks like. It's crazy. Is there anyone else in the world that could do this?
No, Rockstar is its own.
It is. It's like its own industry almost.
Yeah. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 is still one of the top selling games month after month.
And they haven't significantly added to it since GTA Online.
Yeah.
No single player story DLC. Nothing like that.
They don't need to, and they release games so infrequently, and they do it in such. They develop games in such secrecy.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. How do they do that? Because I guess Nintendo is also pretty good about enforcing NDAs or something. Because I feel like we get leaks about everything else from everyone else. Like Ubisoft's not good about keeping their stuff secret. Anyone really. But Nintendo and Rockstar seem to be able to keep a lid on it.
Yeah, and Rockstar releases one game every 5 years.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just not that frequent.
Well, so the last big release they had was GTA 5, right? And has the what are other series that they do? They do like the Bully series.
There's only been one game.
There's only one game. I was thinking there was a Wii.
There was a Wii version, yeah.
And I'm sorry that during 433 that we're talking about the Wii a little bit. I'm so sorry. But Bully and Red Dead and
there was a Max Payne game. There's Max Payne 3. Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, so they it's a small catalog, but it's all vaunted stuff.
Yeah,
really important to the industry stuff.
The thing that because a new Red Dead game was kind of inevitable. Red Dead Redemption sold incredibly.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Red Dead Redemption?
I never did, no.
So I played it. I never finished it because my problem with open world games is that I have such a compulsive need to finish everything.
Yeah.
And so I will spend hours in the first area trying to do everything. And then I get burned out.
How it's meant. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I get burned out and I'm just the last thing I want to do is open up this game and skin yet another animal, even though nobody's forcing me to do it. But the part that I played, I maybe put 25 hours into it, was really well done.
Yeah.
And so I'm very interested to see what they can do here. But I think the fervor that they're able to create just by tweeting these 2 images, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Yeah, it's remarkable that not only are they able to do that, but they have the confidence to just do it. It seems like I almost feel like they could announce it and then release. They could release this year if they wanted to. I think the only thing that would force them to put a release date down is just having to go through retailer channels.
Well, I thought that was one of the nicest things about Fallout 4 when it was announced. Was it was a little bit longer, but it was announced at E3,
right?
And then it was released in the fall.
Yeah,
it wasn't one of these we're gonna tease it over a year or 2 years. It was just like, okay, we were
Right.
working on it all this time, and now here it is.
Right. It's
And
not like 2 years of guessing what the NX is.
yeah,
Right. It's not like that.
no, I would love. It would be amazing if Rockstar was like, okay, we're dropping, like we're announcing it now. We're dropping it in April. Great.
There were a lot of artists.
Oh, okay. So that
Oh, did that conclude it?
that concludes 433. We were accompanied this week by David Tudor, not playing the piano. So Mark, I think what we should do now is we should move on in to our listener reader mail. I put out a call on Facebook today for some questions. So Mark, buckle up.
Uh-oh.
We got some questions. Our first question today, I don't need to use my phone. I can look it up this way. Comes from Andrew. And Andrew says, something that's always struck me about Nintendo is their success with crossovers. I can name at least 3 major standalone crossover franchises for Nintendo. He lists Mario Party, Mario Kart, and Smash Brothers.
So by crossovers, we're talking like characters from different franchises coming together in one game.
Yeah, like
Okay.
mashup, I think.
Mhm.
He says, and then a few minor ones. Mario Tennis? Not totally sure about that one. And he notes that these have inspired a series of clones, like we mentioned PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
Mhm.
So he knows that other publishers have their own successes, like Disney Infinity, Skylanders, Street Fighter, like the Capcom Versus series. But he can't think of a publisher with more than one crossover franchise. Obviously, a lot of this has to do with Nintendo just being willing to take these chances. So he's using the occasion of Mario Party Star Rush coming out on the 3DS next month to ask this question. What is your favorite crossover franchise?
Nintendo.
I think it can. He's not specific, but
Yeah, there's no other ones but Nintendo ones. It's really hard for me to choose between Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers.
So Mario Kart, I feel like only falls into this category recently.
Mm-hmm.
Because prior to Mario Kart 8, like you can say Donkey Kong is like a guest character. I remember Mario Kart Wii, like Funky Kong is in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a weird choice. Yeah, I think Smash is an obvious answer. Not to say that it's bad, Mark. I don't mean to.
No, it's just like there are other ones, but no, I think those two. I've definitely spent the most time playing Mario Kart.
Yeah,
that hands down.
This is maybe embarrassing, or maybe it's a badge of pride. I haven't decided yet. I turned on the Wii U to see you can see how many hours you've played individual games. And Mario Kart 8, Sarah and I have played for 165 hours.
Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, and because Mario Kart I will play by myself. I will play with friends. Like Mario Kart is just fun. Super Smash Brothers I like a lot. I have never been one to play it online. I've never been one.
Mm-hmm.
It is not as fun to me just playing by yourself. And so I usually only play it like when I'm home for the holidays and playing with sibling or like with friends. When I have occasion to pull it out, it's super fun. And I think it's all like they're all amazing games.
Mm-hmm.
But Mario Kart, even if we're just talking about the most recent ones, I think I have the most fun.
Yeah,
with those.
They're super fun games. Do you have any like outside of Nintendo that you enjoy?
No.
I will say that I do really like the Marvel vs. Capcom games.
Yeah. Well, that was the other one because I guess if we're just talking the Marvel versus series, as one series, then because they have multiple like Capcom versus different.
Yeah, I mean the thing there with like really just anytime versus Capcom gets thrown around because I think they could do a game that is just versus Capcom. Like forget Marvel, forget SNK, forget whatever other thing you want to staple onto there. Just give me a versus Capcom game where I can have Wesker from Resident Evil fight against roll from Mega Man. And then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
So a second part of the question here is, do you have an idea for a crossover franchise that you would like to see? What would be a fun context to get all the Nintendo characters mashed up into?
I feel like they've kind of done it all.
I feel like a real-time or turn-based strategy,
RPG
would be super
like
fun.
Super Mario Tactics.
Yes. Oh, Mark.
Yes. Okay,
Super Mario Tactics.
I could get on board for that. I mean, but what makes that different from just like Super Mario RPG?
Well, is that question a criticism?
No, but I'm But I'm just saying like it.
It could also be that if it's just like a 16-bit style RPG where all the characters are Nintendo characters, I'm on board for that.
Nintendo will never do that, and I'll tell you why. Because they don't give people what they want.
They don't give people.
We talked about this last week with Metroid. It's just like, yeah, there has to be like somebody at Nintendo who's like, oh, there's a reason for making this other than it'll make us money, which is such a interesting mindset.
Well, so that question came to us from Andrew. Andrew, thank you for your question.
Yeah.
Remember, if you have a question, you can always write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
We've got a few more questions here I want to burn through before we get through our topic of the week. Burn through sounds like I'm destroying them. I want to celebrate these things. I want to light them,
and I'll destroy them.
So we got a question from Mike. Mike says, "Do you think Nintendo games are actually harder than their modern counterparts?" So I think he's referring to NES games. Is that the case, or is it just that there's a different set of skills required due to advances in technology? So the question is, are games easier now than they were on the NES?
What do you think?
I think yes. I think games were harder on the NES, but I think that's because that's how you make a short game long, is by demanding absolute precision of everything. Like Battletoads is as hard as it is because the game is 12 levels, but you can play that game for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours without making it past the speeder bike level, you know? So yeah, I think they are more, I don't know if they're more technically demanding. I guess harder is an interesting question.
Yeah, well, and I think Mike is right that I think it's both those things. I do think they're like more challenging, or they're it's weird because modern games have their own set of challenges,
right?
But they most of them required less like precision.
They're also less punishing for mistakes that you make. Like even a hard platformer now, something like Super Meat Boy, is it's not forgiving, but it does give you the opportunity to redo it like immediately. Like games used to sort of punish you with boredom for not getting it right. And I think now games are like, they don't want to be boring, because then you'll sell it back to GameStop.
Yeah, and I do think that's part of it, is that back when obviously when like Super Mario Brothers became a success, there were tons of platformer clones, right? Like clones have always existed, especially back in the NES day when you could have 8 people and like $500,000 and you could get a game out super quickly.
Right.
But I feel like as the game industry has gotten larger and there is more and more money at stake with every release, that the games have become homogenized, because if you have 1,000 people working on a game and you're spending upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars to produce a video game,
you have to make that money back.
You have to make it as palatable to everybody as possible. And so I think like games today have their own, like, they're challenging in their own way, but they're not you're right, they're not as punishing.
Yeah, and
they're very forgiving.
I think there's one other thing that to kind of like tack on to the end of this, is that games are more like experiential now, that like game developers want you to experience the whole thing, and putting up like roadblocks to seeing the end of The Last of Us doesn't make any sense. Like that game is its most powerful at the end.
Well, I mean, still less than half of people who buy games actually finish
Which, I can't blame them because
that. No, it's true. I mean, I think like games like I don't know what the statistics are for The Last of Us. I'd be interested to know if the completion rate for that game is much higher than the industry average.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, in general, like Red Dead Redemption, like is an example for me where it's just like I
Yeah.
enjoyed the game, but at no point I didn't feel compelled to finish it.
Yeah, well,
And even
yeah.
though like the
Mhm.
presentation was amazing, it was very similar to any open world game that's been released in the past 10 years.
Right. Well, and Red Dead's an interesting example because, like, if you're to compare, the original Donkey Kong and Red Dead Redemption, like, there's certainly more manual dexterity required of you to make, Marsden ride around on that horse and shoot guys than it does to make Mario, like, jump over barrels. Um, but, and you can sink much more time into a single playthrough of Red Dead Redemption just to get to the end of it. But, like, Donkey Kong still feels like a harder game, right?
Yeah, I mean, is there a more challenging like Pac-Man is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And that's like such a simple game.
Yeah.
The mechanics are
Mhm.
simple, but it's super challenging.
Yeah. So, Mike, good question.
Yeah.
I think the answer is yes, but who knows?
Yeah.
All right. One more question, and then we are going to talk about the Twilight Princess. This one is actually on the topic of Zelda. So, Joe writes, Zelda, why or why why or why not would you like to see this world opened up beyond a single player story and into an MMO? And then there's a follow-up question about Zelda. So we'll do kind of quick on all of these. Would we like to see a Zelda MMO?
My gut instinct is no.
My gut instinct is no as well, just because that's not really a type of game that I like to play. But as we talked about last week, Nintendo knows how to make the fun version of.
Mm-hmm.
They can make Splatoon, which is a shooter but fun. And if they did like a Hyrule based MMO but fun, I could get into that.
Yes. I would say
If I could be a Goron,
okay, actually you just sold me.
yeah,
That's interesting because I was thinking, we'd all have to be like
we'd all be Links.
We'd all be Links, and like that sounds so boring to me. But yeah,
that's probable.
but if like the different classes and like races were you play like Goron and like
Yeah, or
that
like,
could
I'm a
be
Kokiri.
fun. I
Yeah.
just don't know. Like I feel like if Nintendo was ever going to do an MMO, a much more obvious candidate would be something like Animal Crossing.
Sure.
Like it'd make it like The Sims Online. Like where it's just like
Or even like a Fire Emblem, which would I'd really just be. I don't know why I had like an accent. Like a Fire Emblem. I could play a Fire Emblem MMO.
No, yeah, like
All right, Mark says no.
You would really have to sell me on a Legend of Zelda MMO because
You get to be a Goron, Mark.
I know,
Mark,
but
you get to be. You want to be a Zora? You want to be a Zora instead?
no, I don't want to be.
Okay. I think you and I are on different ends of this race war.
But no, yeah, no. But like, I really thinking about it, like, yes, like the idea of like, playing as a Goron is fun, but mechanics wise, I don't know. I'm thinking of because I played like Elder Scrolls Online,
Sure.
and it was enjoyable.
Again, you're not thinking of the fun version of this, though.
No, I'm trying. I am. And
it's hard.
No, I'm trying to. And when I think like fun Nintendo MMO, Zelda is not the IP that comes to mind.
Sure. Second question about Zelda here. Have speedruns cheapened the game in your eyes? So I think referring specifically here to Ocarina of Time. Mark, do you watch Ocarina speedruns?
I do. I watch like Awesome Games Done Quick and Summer Games Done.
Yep.
Like every year when they come around.
We should go to one of those.
That would be really fun.
All right, stay tuned for that.
And no, I don't think it cheapens it at all because in like my personal preference on speedruns is I like the ones that aren't tool assisted.
Yeah.
But no, because these are people who love these games and have obviously, they're not like, it's not like they're like cheating. right? They've played these games before. They're not ruining the experience
Right,
for anybody.
right.
It's just like, oh, they love this game so much they're willing to spend hours, countless hours, like exploring every nook and cranny. And I think that's the highest compliment you could pay to like these games.
Yeah, I think even when they're like breaking the game,
Yeah.
like there are a lot of awesome speed runs of Ocarina where like, you know, there's some hidden like the corner of a map with a Deku stick and like then being like falling through the world
Mm-hmm.
into like there's cool stuff like and it's just it's like fun and surreal to see that kind
Well,
of
and
stuff.
it's also fun from as somebody who's just I have no experience in development, but I'm interested in all things video game.
Yeah.
And especially like Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, where they're so early in
Yeah.
like in 3D gaming's lifetime
Yeah.
that Nintendo and they're figuring out how to do this.
Right. And they didn't
And
totally crack it.
and they're
Yeah.
making mistakes in like level design and how things are configured. And so the fact that people can find these things and they like can explain I mean both you sent me a video and we've both watched it of just like
Of the blink cycles.
the blink the cycles in
Super Mario
Super
64.
Mario 64. And I think that anybody cares about these games so much that they're willing to spend hours like digging into the minutia.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's great that both Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time have become this sort of like Rosetta Stone for like how to break 3D games or like how to analyze them. I think that's super cool. And then Joe's last question about Zelda. As someone who has only really played the series starting with Ocarina of Time, what is it about the 2D Zelda games that make them so darn popular? So what is it about a 2D Zelda that makes it popular? And I think it's I don't know if they are more popular than the 3D versions.
I'm sure they're less popular. I'm sure they're more nostalgic. Like people have nostalgia for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, I like those overhead perspective games like the original Legend of Zelda and like Star Tropics, and even like the original Final Fantasy, because those worlds felt bigger because you could explore them in 4 directions. Whereas, I love Super Mario Brothers, obviously, but like you can really only explore it in one direction. Um, and I mean, like I know Super Mario Brothers 2, there's like some verticality built in there, but like those are like my first sort of like conceptions of dealing with an open world is in
Yeah.
the original Zelda.
Definitely for me, and I think for most people, the standout 2D Zelda, kind of like the standout Zelda game that has influenced like every Zelda game that came after it for the most part is Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And I was struggling to articulate it, but I think for me it's the same where it's just like this lovingly rendered, very expansive
Yeah.
world that changes and
Mhm.
has areas to explore and things you can find that just like the original Legend of Zelda that aren't like pointed out to you.
Yeah,
You
they're
can
not
just like
obvious.
stumble
Yeah.
onto them. Um yeah, like we use this term a lot, or I use this term a lot talking about Nintendo, but I think of like Link to the Past as being a very like joyful game.
Yeah.
Like it's just very beautiful. And I think that's why it's popular.
Yeah, I think that just about it being beautiful, I think that's right that the sprite work is certainly so much more attractive than like the polygons of Majora's Mask and
Mhm.
Ocarina of Time. And like it's taken these Zelda games a while to get to a place where um, their designs don't look overtly ugly. And as we're going to talk about in just a couple of minutes, maybe they're not even there yet.
Well, and I also think that I think the reason why people love Majora's Mask, because not everybody does, but the people who really love Majora's Mask, it's not because of the like 72-hour cycle.
Yeah.
It's not because of the different mechanics. I think it's because the effect that you have on the world. And
Yeah.
you shape the world over these 72 hours based on
Right, who you help.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like the things that you do. And so I think that like plays a huge part. I think part of the reason why people love Wind Waker as much as they love Wind Waker is because it's so charming.
Mm-hmm.
Like the art style is very charming. The game itself is very like beautiful again, you know? And
That's very interesting. Sorry, are you in the middle of?
well, all I was gonna say is that because well, and we can move into it, but I Twilight Princess is mechanically and like the dungeon's a much stronger game in my opinion than Wind Waker.
Mhm.
But I think more fondly of Wind Waker because it is more appealing.
So I think what I'm hearing from you, at least a little bit, is that there's like there's something appealing about the abstraction that like Wind Waker has a cartoony aesthetic, and Twilight Princess, while obviously not going for like photorealism, is going for something more real.
Yeah, and
So like we have a little bit of distance from it, and I think we had that same distance in the 2D versions of it,
mhm,
where we're not like projecting our own perspective into Hyrule.
mhm.
Um, so like I wonder if there's just something that feels a little bit more like, you know, tabletop like board game exploring, playing Hero Quest or D&D or whatever. That like that level of disconnect actually draws you in.
And I think in a based purely on like the footage we've seen and the like extended demos that they've done of Breath of the Wild,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that game seems very expansive.
Yes.
And you know, obviously that's kind of the goal of it in a way that the previous 3D games have not been. Um, and I think again, like there's uh like I don't know, like I keep coming back to the term beauty, which I think really does like it- the Zelda games that I am attracted to most are attracted. Ooh, whoa, talking about beauty and attracted to most. Like the Zelda games that I think
It's okay, Mark. It's okay.
but the Zelda games that I like
Right.
like feel most strongly about are the ones that I'm like want to return to or have fond memories of are the ones that are like uh yeah, like they're aesthetically pleasing. You know,
Yeah.
they are an inviting world that I want to explore, and the um yeah, and the ones that I'm like Ocarina of Time is obviously a landmark game,
Right.
you know, and there are some good things that we'll talk about, you know, in like Twilight Princess and uh stuff like that, but I'm I just don't find myself, you know,
Yeah.
wanting to come back to them.
Yeah, and I think they're almost too literal
Yeah.
in
Oh,
in,
yeah.
in what they're presenting.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, great questions.
Yeah, great questions.
Great questions about Zelda. Let's actually use that to transfer into, transfer under. We're gonna transfer under our topic for this week. And of course, that ding means that we are talking about what we're talking about. And what we're talking about today is The Legend of Zelda, the Twilight Princess. Mark, how do you want to approach this bad boy, the Legend of Zelda, the Twilight Princess?
Well, let's talk about our like initial experiences with it.
Okay, so the game was originally released 2006. I'm guessing now. I think it's 2006 on the GameCube and Wii.
And it was originally supposed to be a GameCube game,
right.
and then was delayed, and then when the Wii was revealed, it was revealed that it was going to be a launch title. It was going to launch on the GameCube and the Wii. It would have motion controls, so on and so forth.
Right. And one of the other quirks of the Wii version is that the world is flipped left to right, just flipped entirely, because Link is traditionally a left-handed hero, but with motion controls, they needed you to hold your sword or Wii remote in your right hand.
Or they decided they were going to because most people are right-handed.
Yes. Also, I think that's just how you. I mean, even if do lefties reverse how they hold the Wii remote and nunchuck?
I assume so.
I mean, you know, this is how I feel with like ooh, Kurt Cobain or ooh, Jimi Hendrix. Learn to play the guitar right. I don't care if you're left-handed.
Look, it's hard to be left-handed. Like, door handles are not designed for you. It's impossible to do the Christmas wrapping unless you get your special left-handed scissors.
Oh, okay. I see. It's a scissors thing. I was
Yeah.
gonna say wrapping Christmas presents is impossible anyway. I don't care what your dominant hand is. Those are the primary differences between the Wii and GameCube versions of Twilight Princess.
And I played the Wii version.
Yeah, as did I.
I got it. I didn't get my Wii at launch, but when I bought my Wii, I bought Twilight Princess. And I wish I would have played the GameCube version.
Yeah, I think it's probably a superior.
Because one of the things that the Wii version does is, in order for combat, like in order to swing your sword, you have to wiggle the Wiimote back and forth.
I believe waggle is the
You have to
preferred
waggle.
terminology.
Yeah, you have to waggle the Wiimote.
Right. Mark, stop making those obscene gestures. with your
I'm just
hands.
waggling my Wiimote.
All right.
And it was exhausting, and it
Yes.
wasn't super precise, and it just felt pointless. And I wish, I could just play the game pushing a button to swing my sword.
Right. And that was the solution that it's not even a solution because it wasn't a problem on the GameCube, that you just pushed a button and swung the sword.
Yeah.
I do think if there is some place where the motion controls do benefit the game, it's anytime you're doing first person aiming.
Absolutely.
Because like being able to shoot arrows by pointing at the screen and having like a very quick way to zoom in on one of those moblins up, like in a watchtower and just like shooting them down, that felt good.
Well, there's a section of the game, and it's one of like the moments that I wish there were more of in Twilight Princess, because just as like a side thing, like Twilight Princess is so much, to me it feels like, and this is not like an original idea on my part, but so much like a reaction to the initial fan reaction to Wind Waker, which was very negative.
Sure.
Because like now we think of Wind
it's so
Waker,
bright and fun.
Yeah, we think of Wind Waker as being so like warmly appreciated, but at the time it was very controversial. People were like, "Oh, this is a cartoon for babies,
right?
Not a hardcore GameCube,
right?" And
Legend of Zelda, and it's a problem that Zelda will have
never
outlive,
right?
Never outlive,
right?
But and a lot of Twilight Princess, just like Ocarina of Time, feels like kind of like an embellishment on Link to the Past. Twilight Princess feels like an embellishment on Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, almost like one for one. Like there's for as much as you can say that like Ocarina is just a 3D version of Link to the Past, Ocarina introduced the idea of Gorons, which are the like rock-looking mountain-based people, or the Zora, which are like these fish men and women. Mark, look, you just got. They're really cool. They've got there's like a royal family, and they're neat, and they swim, and they're really cool. But so Twilight Princess brings back all of those races like unchanged, and they had been hugely altered in the Wind Waker, because Wind Waker seems to take place in like a future version of like a post-apocalyptic, like a Waterworld version.
Oh man, the Zelda timeline could be its own. We'll just have to like talk about it one time.
We'll do Zelda timeline. Yeah, that's a good topic for this. But like those races have evolved with the world in that game, and so it's like the Zoras become these bird people because I don't know, the sky is the new sea because the sea is the new ground. There are some analogies here that don't totally line up, but it's an interesting and like creative way to expand on that mythology, where Twilight Princess feels more like a reiteration of that mythology.
Exactly. And going back to before we talked about that, like the pointer controls, the Wiimote, the like first person controls, there's a part in Twilight Princess that I wish it was like different for the Zelda aesthetic. It was kind of like this like Wild West, like old American West
Yeah.
town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an aesthetic you don't really see in Zelda. And so
Yeah.
it was like fresh. It was like, oh, this is something new instead of just like a uh, more elaborate version of something I've already seen before. But you do kind of like this Old West like shooting gallery type thing
Yeah.
in that section. And that was another part where it made perfect sense to have pointer controls.
Yeah, that's actually the version of Kakariko Village in Twilight Princess. So I may be a little bit fresher on like the details of this game because I recently played it.
Yeah, you played the HD version.
I played the HD re-release on the Wii U, which came with the Wolf, Link, and Midna amiibo.
We're both staring at it
We
right
are
now.
both staring at it right now because it is beautiful.
Yeah, it's very elaborate.
Yeah, the Mark and I were trying to figure out, are these things hand painted?
Yeah, or are like the individual pieces? I have no idea. I don't know.
Or
how.
have the robots become so intelligent and graceful as to fool us into thinking that their work is the work of human hands?
It's probably that.
It's probably the robots
It's
are graceful.
probably that. Yeah.
We're gonna be taken over by graceful robots. But yeah, it is cool to see like a little bit of newer aesthetic kind of plugged into that game. But for the most part, it feels like a rehash of a lot of old ideas.
Just ugly.
And so kind of ugly. So one of the it's certainly in its original releases it was not in HD, right?
Right.
On the GameCube and on the Wii, HD was not a thing on those boxes.
No.
The Wii U, it is a thing on that box. And I do think that everything is benefited by being in HD. The models are still the same. And the textures are still basically the same. I think that some of them have been upgraded, but for the most part, it almost looks more like. Did you see Kubo and the Two Strings?
I did, yeah.
It feels a little bit like that, like knowing that it appears that there are artificial representations in like a real world. You know, like it feels like they're stop motion.
Oh, that sounds like high praise.
Yeah, I mean. When I saw Kubo, I was like, oh, this is just like Twilight Princess HD.
Because again, my experience on Wii is that everything had like this like smear filter.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Here's a reach. Okay, so I don't know if anybody out there watches RuPaul's Drag Race like I do.
Sure, of course people watch.
But there's like the like lost first season, which is like the KTMA like lost first season of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
This is before they find the hatch.
So yeah, like the lost. So like it's the season of RuPaul's Drag Race, the first one where they had like no budget, and RuPaul's like ashamed of it, and they couldn't even film it in HD. And what they did was they like put this weird. It looked like somebody rubbed Vaseline on the lens, so everything was like everything had this like soap opera kind of glow to it to try to hide. And that's what I think of when the graphics of the original Wii and GameCube Twilight Princess, where it was like it wasn't really made for 16:9 like high definition TVs.
Yeah.
So the way we're gonna hide this is just by making everything kind of muddy and smeared and not like distinct.
Yeah, and a lot of those non-distinct shapes go away. Like I feel like there are a lot harder edges, a lot more like it does feel almost plasticky in the Wii U version.
Also the Twilight Princess feels so much of that like PS3, Xbox 360, Wii generation where it's like we're not gonna have colors. Everything's just gonna be like gray and like green, like variations on gray and brown, and that's what I think of Twilight Princess as well.
Yeah, well, and I that speaks to what we were saying before, just about like the other games being remarkably beautiful. This one lacks a lot of that beauty, like a lot of that distinct like color palette. That it does seem just more kind of drab. In that very like thank you Gears of War, right? Is that who we can blame?
Yeah.
Gears of War?
And Ocarina, Unreal Engine 3.
Yeah, there you go.
But like Ocarina of Time, like it's not the brightest palette, but it can partly get away with it because it was the first time we were seeing The Legend of Zelda in 3D, and so that in and of itself
Yeah.
is so amazing. With Twilight Princess, it just really the worst thing about this game are, in my opinion, are the aesthetics. I
Mhm.
just don't even. I have very obviously negative associations when I think of like the design of Twilight Princess.
There are a lot of weirdly saggy breasts in this game. Like the Oku.
Oh yeah, the weird like naked chicken
The
things.
the face chickens.
Yeah.
The face chickens all have like saggy breasts, and a lot of the Gorons do as well. Like there's, I don't know. The game has some like weirdly, for Nintendo, sexually charged imagery. Because Midna herself, she's got this like very pear shape. She's got a very like fertility goddess kind of shape. And then there are all these saggy breasts I was talking about. But the game also has more of a narrative than Zelda games before it, like with characters having relationships with each other. That's not normally something that like you expect of the characters that like join you in the game. You know, there's always like little side stories of like these two people are in love, but they're just like people you talk to in the town or whatever.
Yeah.
And the cast in this game is so much bigger. There's like there are those 5 kids from your village that get kidnapped,
Which again, just baffling design choices.
oh yeah, there's some strange design choices. There's a very small child. There's a kid with like a 1992 skateboarder haircut, part down right down the middle. Weird design choices.
And but putting all of those aside, putting
Yes.
like the aesthetics aside, and I don't really feel free to like say no, but I don't really want to
No.
talk.
Sorry, I do want.
But I don't really want to talk about like I feel like it's the beginning, the first few hours being incredibly slow has been talked to death.
Sure.
But so like we can like mention that yes, the beginning of this game feels endless.
Game starts slow, more than starting slow, and then we don't have to talk about this. It starts like a different game.
Yeah.
Because you spend so much time like in your hometown, like running errands and stuff.
And it's not a big hometown.
No, it's real small.
And it takes forever. And I'm going to be honest, I remember being so frustrated at the fishing mini game, like because it relied on the Wii controls, which are not the most precise, and I could not entirely figure out what it wanted me to do. I hated that mini game.
Mark, can I confess something to you?
Please.
Fishing in any Zelda game, easily the worst part of any Zelda game.
I don't disagree.
I don't ever want to fish. And
you had to do it. You had to do it to like get further into this game. The first part of this game does not leave a good impression.
No, but once the thing is, it transitions from the first part of the game to like being out into the world so gradually that like there's no real like on-off switch. There's no like, oh, this is the point where I'm having fun, because like it just takes a while, and like the first like inkling that you are to like a place where you're more free and having fun, you're transformed into the wolf, and that feels restrictive. So the game keeps a leash on you for kind of a long time.
And I wonder if that was partly by design. I wonder if it had just been exclusively a GameCube game, if the intro would have been different, if it would have been shorter, because I wonder if part of that was by design because they wanted to introduce people to the Wii's mechanics and like how to play a Zelda game on the Wii.
That is really interesting, because you do have to do some just like little mini quests where like you're making a bird knock a thing down, and you do that by pointing the Wii remote at the it's like a beehive or something like that, or where you're wrestling the goats to the ground, which comes back at the end of the game, which is clever, but 30 hours later you've forgotten about it, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so that's an interesting thought, that maybe it does tie back into the like wanting to show off playing Zelda with motion controls.
But like those complaints aside, I think tempo-wise,
oh yeah,
it's one of, if not the strongest 3D Zelda game.
Yeah, I had so much fun playing through the temples in this one. I also recently played through not recently, this is like over a year ago at this point. the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time, and those dungeons take like 20-25 minutes to get
Mhm.
through. And every single one of the Twilight Princess dungeons is like an hour plus. Like they're and not in like a bad way, but they're like a real investment in like really getting the job done. And like I don't know, you feel so smart like working your way through them and
Mhm.
understanding the space and being like, oh man, I just got that gear spinner thing. I'm gonna ride up the wall
Oh
over here.
man, that gear spinner is amazing.
I wish there was more application for it. Like you use it in that dungeon and then like 2 other times, and then it's like done.
Well, and that is one of the exciting things again about like Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
is they've because it is very much of the Zelda formula to be like, okay, here's a new item, use it this one time to get through this temple you're in, and then you never really have to use it ever again.
Yeah.
And Breath of the Wild promises, because they don't know what order you're going to be solving puzzles in, it's be like, oh, each thing will have multiple ways to solve it. Whereas like with the gear spinner, it's like, I have to use the gear spinner. I have no other choice, which is great. It's a great mechanic.
Right. It's
But then,
fun.
yeah, but then I'm going to move on to the next temple, and I don't have to worry about using the gear spinner ever again.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Mark, can I tell you about my like experience of first playing
Yeah, please.
Twilight Princess? So after I played Twilight Princess and Wind Waker like back to back for the first time in that order, Twilight Princess and then Wind Waker, I kind of stopped playing Zelda games for almost a decade. And it was because I got the Wii while I was working as a residence hall director at the school that I had graduated from. So I was just 1 year graduated and I was staying on in a professional capacity. No longer had class. No longer I had responsibilities, but I didn't have like responsibilities that took time. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like just being in my apartment and having the door open, I was doing a good job. And so having the Wii there and having people come by and play tennis or whatever meant that I was doing great. And so whenever I played Twilight Princess, I did so with an audience. That there was always somewhere between 5 and 15 people in my apartment watching me play this game. So my experience of Twilight Princess is a deeply social thing for me, which I understand is a crazy thing to say about a Zelda game. That like usually it's such a solitary, almost lonely experience. But for me, Twilight Princess is about, you know, Art Shipley saying like, "Oh yeah, you got one of those back there. You can open this locked door." Or Chelsea being like, "No, Patrick, it's faster to go the other way." Or Willie to be like, "Just let me know." Like, "Oh yeah, we saw the hookshot targets back in the village." Or someone else saying, "Yeah, why don't you try to use the boomerang to get that heart container piece down?" After we tried for like an hour to fly over there with the chicken. So when Skyward Sword came out, I had this like kind of crisis of like, there's a Zelda game and I want to play it, but I don't know how to do that without having those people around. And I have still really never played that game, just because I don't. It feels like I need to have those people around, and everyone that I've mentioned is now scattered to the four corners of adulthood. But yeah, just for me, it was a very, very like intensely social experience.
So what was it like playing the HD remake?
Very different.
Was part of it like tied up in the memories of the first time you played it?
Yeah. So yeah, in a lot of ways, I would find myself laughing at. We called those weird naked chickens. We called them face chickens. And we used to yell, "Face chicken, be cool, chicken." So yeah, like in a lot of ways, who can ever say? Whenever you're playing an older game, it's gonna be boosted by your nostalgia for
Absolutely, that's part of the reason we play old games.
it, right? And part of the reason that we are having these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it felt I was reliving a lot of those same experiences, and it's hard because like I'm doing that on my own, and I can like text people to say like, "Hey, I'm playing Twilight Princess, and I just threw this chicken. It made me think of you." But like no one's having that experience with me,
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was just a further reminder that the older you get, the more isolated and alienated you are. And the only happiness you could ever find is in Nintendo eventually announcing the NX, and then we'll be happy. We'll know what happiness looks like.
You're ruining Patrick's life, Nintendo.
It's all right. They've been doing it for 30 years.
What's your favorite temple? I will tell you, mine is Snow Peak Ruins.
Oh, me too.
And again, it's
actually,
and I one, like the mechanics in it are great, just like all the other temples in Twilight Princess. But for me, again, it's because it's so different from like aesthetically, it's very different from temples that have come before. It's like a giant mansion.
Yes,
and
the courtyard.
Yeah. And that like plays a big part of it, because it like, again, the other Twilight Princess temples are very mechanically sound, but they also again feel like embellishments on temples we've seen before.
Yeah.
And Snow Peak Ruins feels very different.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's also where they introduce you to the Yeti and the Yeti's wife, which are unique characters in the Zelda canon. Like you don't see those weirdos ever again. And like he's making soup, and like you dip in and like have this horrible like fishball soup. Yeah, no, that's such a good temple, and it's one that you don't really realize that it is a temple until you've been playing it for like 10 minutes.
That's because you've never seen anything like it in a Zelda game, and so it's just a giant mansion. You're like, oh, this is interesting, and then you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you're like, oh, wait a second.
I just picked up a compass.
Yeah, this is the mechanics of a temple. Least favorite moment.
Least favorite moment for me this time was the Sky Temple. There's a set of, so in the Sky Temple you pick up a second claw shot, hook shot, whatever it's called,
hook shot.
So that you're doing a lot of like hanging from one hook shot target and shooting at another. And there's a stacked set of like rooms that's maybe like 4 floors high, where you just have to like hook shot to hook shot to hook shot, like from targets to platforms. And it's so disorienting, and like it's intentionally obtuse, like to navigate this room.
And is this the one where like if you miss or something, you like fall into
and you lose half a heart?
Yeah.
That was the most frustrating stuff for me.
For me, it's not a temple. There's a like a mission you have to do where a covered wagon.
Yeah, so
it's an escort mission.
Yeah, what's happening is you are escorting the Zora Prince, who is being taken. Stop it!
It all makes sense why I don't like the Zora.
I think Mark, you gotta. It's 2016, man. All right, just be cool. You're escorting a Zora Prince who is injured from Hyrule Castle to Kakariko Village in a covered wagon, and he's being chased.
Oh. Yeah, I found this mission so frustrating. I actually found any time when you're on like horseback having to like fight off enemies, I did not enjoy any of those moments. And there's a few, because like when you first get out into the wide open field of Hyrule, part of the one of the things that's very cool about Twilight Princess is the Hyrule field in like Ocarina of Time is pretty small, but when you get out there for Twilight Princess, it feels so expansive, and the music in this game is beautiful.
Yeah,
that is another thing that I really love about Twilight Princess is the music. And so just riding around with the music and like the atmosphere is amazing. And then you have to do combat occasionally, and it's just not. I did not find it fun. And this escort mission with the Zora Prince, that was for me the nadir of Twilight Princess.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. Actually, yeah, and any of the horseback combat is not great.
It just feels like another time where they're like, okay, we'll like use the Wiimote, but the Wiimote really isn't that capable.
Yeah.
And so I just remember being so frustrated.
It's also kind of just like the regular combat, especially when played on the GameCube or the Wii U version where you're playing on the gamepad, is so compelling on its own that like it's kind of neutered when you put Link on the horse, and then like the controls are different. The effect of swinging a sword is different.
Well, the interesting thing to me is that it's not just looking back on it in the past, being like, oh yeah, like, because I could understand if at the time we were like, wow, the things we can do with the Wiimote are so awesome,
Yeah.
and that over time they like look less impressive. But even at the time, it was just like, oh, why are we doing this?
At the time, we knew a waggle was a waggle.
Yeah.
And we knew that wasn't great. Well, Mark, I think that I think we've covered it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I guess, like, just like overall
Mhm.
impressions of, let's not rank it. Let's not
What would we rank it against?
the other Zelda games.
Oh, okay.
Like putting it in, like, I don't think we have to put in like a great list, but I don't think it's a bad Zelda game.
No.
But I do think it's a frustrating one. It's not one that when the HD remake was announced, I was not like, I have to go back and replay this. Although after talking to you about it, maybe I should.
Yeah, it's super fun. You can take the Wii home sometime, the Wii U home sometime, and play it for sure. The just as long as we're on the subject of the HD remake and this version, the amiibo that comes with it unlocks a wolf specific set of dungeons that you like battle through, and it's just battle. It's not actually a dungeon. I misused dungeon in that. And the number of hearts that you make it through that through that challenge with, so your remaining hearts is the number of hearts that the wolf gets when you use it in Breath of the Wild. So that's super cool. I'm excited to bring my 17 and a half hearts over.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Thank you. Out of 20. That's his.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even have all 20 hearts because I didn't even start with that many.
Oh yeah.
In any event, it's just neat to have that kind of functionality.
But yeah, what are your overall thoughts on Twilight Princess?
Overall thoughts on Twilight Princess, I think, are maybe more positive than yours. But I am willing to concede that that's all just tied up in people I don't get to see every day that I used to see every day. Great. Well, Mark, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter. We are just at NinCart Society. Twitter has its own rules about how long your name can be. So NinCart Society. Check us out on Facebook. The page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. It's still a pretty sparsely populated page, but we will get something on there shortly. If you get a chance, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. And while you're at it, you can check out other shows that are on the What's a Creative podcast network. We're proud to be part of What's a Creative. So if you like what you heard here, there's a good chance you'll find other stuff there that you like. Our logo was created by Olivia Duncan. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can find more 8-Bit Betty music on 8bitbetty.com, or you can listen up right now. For my co-host Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying sorry about that weird pause, and thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?